Good evening and welcome to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen Workshop. It is September 26, 2024, and it is 6:30 p.m. The prayer Thursday night, and please mark your calendars, it is next Thursday that we're meeting, is going to be by Pastor Randy Berg. The Pledge of Allegiance will be by Boy Scout Troop 340. Everyone should have a copy of the minutes from the August 29th, 2024 workshop and the September 3rd, 2024 regular meeting. We didn't have anyone sign up for the public comment period. Thursday night we will have departmental reports, and then we have the consent agenda. First item is approve application for a roadblock to be conducted by the Shriners from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday, October 26, 2024, with a rain date of Saturday, November 2nd at the intersection of Murfreesboro Road and Stones River Road. This is pretty normal. We see this yearly from different groups, and the Shriners have been pretty regular here, and we do even get them participating from time to time with the parade. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to B, approve agreement with Verified First LLC to conduct employment background checks. This is just like it sounds. It is background checks on employees. Does anyone have any questions? Then moving on to C, approve the renewal of the employee benefits package for 2025. Andrew, do you want to walk us through changes?
Sure. I think the things that I want to focus on is the fact that in the current cycle we're in with healthcare costs increasing, obviously every entity feels that. I'm happy to report that in conjunction with our brokers, Willis Towers Watson, they've actually negotiated some new agreements for us. We are in a 3-year agreement with Blue Cross Blue Shield. However, as you can see in the packet, we'll see a 6.5% reduction in administrative fees. It's one of the areas that we felt like was a competitive area that we could save some money on, and they successfully did that. There's also a $5,000 allowance that we can use each year for various incentive programs that we might run for employees to participate in, that Blue Cross will now allow those funds to be used for that, which is great. So overall, the benefits that we offer to employees are extremely valuable, and I hear often from employees that it's one of the best that they've ever had, and they want to keep it that way. So the proposal for next year is to continue with exactly what we have with our same partners. You'll see that there is one increase this year, and that is in our stop loss. That is a program that allows us to hit a cap on an individual claim, and then the city doesn't have to pay over that cap. And so those costs are rising, and we'll absorb some of those in the increase. No charge on our dental, vision, our disability, or our FSA program. Those all remain exactly the same.
Wonderful. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you, Andrew. Moving on to D, approve contract amendment with Kimley Horn for the extension of Dobson Knobs Trail to the proposed Blair Road extension. Looking at this is tying in with the new road, the new Blair West extension that would go from Waldron and Blair all the way out to Carruthers, creating a roundabout. And this would tie Dobson Knobs in with that. Does anyone have any questions?
I'm requesting we move this to a new business item, just based on concerns that I've received from community members. I live in that neighborhood. I've had several people reach out to me about this. So I'd just like to give them the opportunity to have some time to speak with board members, should they wish to, about any potential concerns with that.
Okay. Any questions?
So that road will go through and Dobson Trail will go through and meet Carruthers? or the extension of Blair?
Yes, it's currently a stub street, so it was designed to tie into another road or have that road extend out. And so tying it in with anything over there, which Blair West would be the closest once it's built, would get it in compliance with the International Fire Code that we adopted. Because it's for one way in, one way out, it's supposed to be no more than 30 homes.
So there's only one way in Dobson Trail,
And
Currently
for the
right
bridge.
now.
Yes,
the ridge. So
this would provide a second way.
that would make the second one.
Yes.
So it's pretty much almost a have to then, right?
Well, it's ultimately up to this board, but I'm sure from fire, they can, weigh in on this from their vantage point about life safety, and police can as far as,
Many community members in that neighborhood were told by the developer at the time of the purchase of the property that there would be a second entrance at the Waldron Road, where the construction entrance currently is. However, the developer has since sold that property to the industrial board. So there are other potential ways of developing a second entrance there versus tying this in with Blair, should the city desire to give the neighborhood that opportunity.
So I guess their big concern out there is the fact that they're afraid that it's going to open up a cut through or something to that effect.
Correct.
Okay.
any other questions?
I would like to add that this would aid in the South Walter construction when we get to that point, because currently what we're going to be relying on is either the roadway is going to have to be temporary lanes and different stuff throughout the construction, and no shutdown of South Walter and between Blair and Lake unless we have a detour. What has been discussed several times is Arbor Ridge would be used for that detour once it's constructed. Now, one of the things we don't have control of as the city is the homes being built and being built at what pace they get built. So we definitely do not have control that road network will be installed. It's totally going to depend on the economy and how fast they sell the homes there and put that road network in. The city, on the other hand, has control of Blair West. So whenever we do Blair West, if we connect Dobson Knob up to Blair West, there will be a detour at that point. Now, that does go back into the concern of, a cut through. So, but I just want to make y'all aware that there is also more benefit than not for that connection.
Gary, let me ask, and if you don't know this, you can just say you don't know, but where is the builder's?
Forget how many sections. It's over 11, and they are just pulling building permits on section 1. So they're under construction on sections 2, 3, and then a couple of others that are out of order. So they're 5% in.
Okay, so they haven't started laying road work though.
They've started, they have a binder course down on the first section, on section 1. That's how they're able to pull building permits.
Okay.
And I will say, based on y'all's agreement that we had as far as the board, the Arbor Ridge folks have paid their $300,000. Because if you'll remember, y'all had an agreement that before, and I can't remember exact language, but I think it was before they get COs in phase 1, they would pay $300,000. Then phase 2, and I can't remember if it was 176 homes, it was a certain amount. They'd pay another $300,000 installment, and then another one. So they have paid that first $300,000.
Okay.
So basically, an ideal situation here would be that everything kind of gets all done close to, at the same time, the roads, the roundabouts, the houses, everything? Or is that Crothers going to be through there way early?
Blair West will be.
Or Blair West?
Yeah, what we're looking at in Blair West is if this gets approved, well, even if it doesn't get approved, we're still going to do Blair West. The construction time frame, and Gary, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we would start construction in another maybe 6 months to 9 months.
Beginning of
And
next fiscal year.
yeah, and then you're looking at probably an 18-month to a 2-year max time frame, I think. So you would be looking at, what would that be, the end of 26? End of 26, middle of 27 is when you'll have Blair West open. That, like I said, then could aid in the construction because the construction of Waldron, we're hoping, comes right on the heels of Blair West.
And I just want to kind of reiterate, you talk about benefit. The benefit here is to the cost effectiveness and the convenience to the city. The benefit here that you're looking at is not for the safety of the community and the quality of life of my neighbors. So that's why this is kind of a hot item for me, is we're just looking to shortcut a few dollars instead of looking for the quality of life for my neighbors.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on to E, approve amendment number 1 for the 2024 league facility use agreement with Universal Sports League, Laverne Baseball Softball Association. Essentially, this is where it's the fall league. Basically, fall ball has not been successful in numbers, so this is talking about reducing the overall contract price to $4,000 from $8,000, since pretty much there's only a spring ball. It's not a fall ball as well. If anything, with fall ball, they do a free clinic that's just free to anybody in the community to participate in. Does anyone have any questions? F, approve change order number 4 with Barron Construction LLC for the Public Works and Community Development Services Facility. This is another change order, and this is a $40,000 increase, but there's no change to the project budget. That's as far as needed with this. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to G. Approve modification number 2 to the professional services agreement with TTL Inc. for structural inspection and testing services for the City of Laverne Public Works and Community Development Services facility. And this is just like it sounds. Does anyone have any questions? H, approve change order number 1 with W&O Construction Company for the water system SCADA upgrade project. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good evening, Board, Mayor, Aldermen. This change order, number 1, has 4 different primary components. The first is for the replacement and relocation of a ceiling-mounted transformer that's in the fluoride room at the water treatment plant. It's been determined to be heavily corroded, and we're relocating some other wall-mounted electrical components out of that room. And once the contractor got on site, he pointed that out, that was up there in the ceiling and it's also corroded. So it seemed appropriate to move that one out of the room as we're doing the SCADA panel and a breaker panel on the wall. So they're going to be moving those to the actual electrical room that's in that building. Then there's also 2 conduit pathways that we believe to be viable pathways when we were looking at the design, to get fiber to the lagoon area and then contact wires to the entry gate at the plant to give them some extra ability to control that through the SCADA versus the phone system. Once the contractor started really trying to do that work, he told us that those were not viable paths, so we have to put a new conduit in, which requires some trenching on site and putting the new pathways in. And then the bulk of the cost in this change order is the 5 variable frequency drives for the high service pumps. So those allow the high service pumps to speed up and slow down and not put hammer into the system. The water treatment plant has been working on VFD number 2 for quite some time. They've tried everything they can to try to get that back online, and ultimately Eaton has come out, who's the manufacturer, and they pretty much just deemed that has to be replaced. And so, of course, now that exact model is not manufactured anymore. They have like an in-kind equivalent that they're proposing to replace it with. So this is for replacing all 5 of them, though, given the life of the existing ones, the criticality of those pumps and those drives, and not being able to get support, and it's a pretty long lead time for getting a replacement, and then you have to have a qualified electrical contractor install them and start them up, and then the SCADA integrator. Since we have all those team players in this project already, it felt like a good fit to go ahead and just do all of those at this time and get them all up to speed and functioning well. So the total price for all 4 of those items is $225,125, and it would have a 0-day impact to the contract time. The contractor has agreed to everything, and he's signed the cover letter for the change order. So we would recommend approval for this, but ultimately it's y'all's decision. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Jamie, I have one question in regards to the quote that was sent over to us. It says in there that it's valid for 7 days, but it came over last month. So have we talked to them to see if they're willing to honor that, or?
They are aware of the time frame. I've been very clear to them about this has to come before the board. These are the dates of the meetings. This is the date that it would be approved. So they have not indicated that they would not hold that pricing. I can double check that with them.
Please.
Prior to Tuesday and let you know for sure, but I don't.
Seems like there's several things throughout that water plant that they don't make anymore or not available anymore.
It's
Like
very
we're
frustrating.
always hearing that.
Right. That's kind of how the whole SCADA project came about, is because so much of it had been considered obsolete, and if you can't find it on eBay, then you're kind of stuck.
We want to get away from eBay shopping
Right.
if we can as a city.
Absolutely.
Maybe switch over to Amazon.
There you go.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on to I, approve amendment number 1 to the grant contract number 75903 with State of Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation for the Brookside Park. And this is a grant for $201,876.56. This is a matching grant, so we would have to match that dollar for dollar. And so Andrew, can you come up here and just, I don't know if you can speak to this as far as whether that, I know TDEC accepted the scope of that change, but we feel like we can move forward.
As far as the original scope, what we had was the play structures would be there at Brookside Park and also a picnic shelter. Those 2 items were taken away just to reduce cost. That's something we're going to bring before BOMA for next fiscal year. So, but as far as the scope of the project, it would still have a parking lot, sidewalks. It would tie into the existing walking trail that's ends currently to the big open field. It would have a big multi-purpose use field, picnic tables, trash cans. So it'd pretty much be 75% park, and the next fiscal year we'll come before you all and ask for the remaining.
This money here is still on track, what we talked about
Yes.
last year, within $1,000, looks
Yes.
like.
Yes.
Any other questions? Thank you, Andrew. J, approve utility line easement for Nashville Electric Service to allow the removal of the power pole from the roundabout on Stones River Road. This has been a 2-year project where basically NES showed up and placed a pole right in the middle of our roundabout with no real notice, even though we have an agreement with them not to do that. So we've been working through this, and Evan has put together this easement agreement, allows for them to do, tree cutting and service their line. But once we get this approved, then it would be roughly, I believe it was 30 to 60 days for them to get that pole moved. Does anyone have any questions?
So we have to vote to give them permission to move a pole that we want them to move?
Well, they're moving it into an area that we own, so we're giving them an easement to be able to access that, to do whatever kind of work on that pole, as well as if they need to cut back trees. So they're moving their pole off of our property onto our property and have the ability to go and service that. Any other questions?
Great.
Number 5, new business, Resolution 2024-26, a resolution of the City of Laverne Board of Mayor and Aldermen to declare property owned by the city to be surplus to the city's needs and directing disposal of the same. This is normal for us. This month, I believe we've got a desk from the PR department. The police department has a filing cabinet, some chairs, and 4 desks. So, anyone have any questions? Moving on to number 6, Resolution 2024-27, a resolution to approve the land acquisition policy for additional real property interests needed for the Blair West project. This is, we've already approved with professional services agreement with Croft and Associates for right-of-way acquisition. So this is going to go through the same process, and people will be offered up to 10% of the value, the appraised value. They voluntarily transfer that property over within 30 days. So, does anyone have any questions? Moving on to number 7, motion to authorize the mayor to execute a settlement agreement regarding the Cochran lawsuit. We do have an executive session on this Thursday, October 3rd at 6 p.m. Then moving on to number 8, we have appoint board and or remove committee members. First, we've got the Beautification Arts and Advisory Committee. We still have one open position, and no one has applied for that yet. We have the Historical Preservation Advisory Committee. We've got one opening and have not received any applications for that. We've got the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. We have one opening there, and we have one applicant, Miss Mary Jane Skinner. All 3 of these boards are being advertised on Channel 3 and on social media. So if there's anyone who would like to apply, you would need to get that in by Wednesday. Is that correct, Bruce?
Thursday morning at the latest.
Okay. And those applications are on the website. Then last but not least, we've got the traffic calming program. And this is something I've asked last month to be brought on as a discussion item. Essentially, I know we've discussed it before, but I would like for the city to change its policy with traffic calming measures on public roads. Currently, we do not allow any. We do allow that on private roads. I would like for us to adopt a policy similar to Nashville's, where we would open up for a short amount of time where our residents can say where they feel like these items are needed. And then that is internally reviewed and determined if it's something that warrants it. And we can look at whether it's cushions, speed bumps. There's a whole gamut of different items. But we can look into that and then place them down, evaluate their use. In some cases with Nashville, I've spoken with the mayor of Nashville. In some cases, they put them down and had to remove them because residents are like, this is outside of my house and this is noisy as can be. Or it's just not having an effect. In some cases, they've had where people have changed their driving patterns just to get around them. But in my opinion, we need to look at something because across the city, I know if you're on social media, you hear it. You see people. I know I live on actually I don't live on, my house backs up to a road that on a regular basis we hear the Nashville Car Club come flooring through, and so we just, in my opinion, I think it should be looked at. I know we do have some rumble strips down on a public road because Ingram decided to put some down without consulting anybody. So that's already down in the community. I don't know if it's having any effect over there. police chief can comment to that. But guys, what are y'all's thoughts on this sort of thing? So, I mean, this wouldn't be for every road, but it could be for some.
I think that this has been I've been in Laverne 30 years, and it's been a sore spot for 30 years, and it's going to get worse because, unless you get help from the citizens. My first question would be, how are citizens going to relay that information to whoever to look at that?
So if we developed something similar to Nashville's, it's an online form.
Okay.
That someone would submit. I know Kyle looked at a couple of different programs in the past, and whether it's by paper or electronic means.
Yeah, there's a draft that's at the back of the agenda that I think it was Spring Hill that kind of modeled after, but with you saying what you're saying now, I probably want to look at Nashville's policy. If you've got it, if you'll send it to me, I'll gladly try to model this to something different and then get it back out to review. Because this policy I know is a little bit different than kind of having it open for a time frame. It's just a little different. So I'd kind of like to see what you've got or what Nashville does, and then maybe kind of meet and discuss it again.
Yeah, I think at least the tech side of it would probably fall a little bit more on Glenn, because it would be essentially a web form on our website, and people would fill that out, and we would have it open 2-3 weeks, was what Nashville does, I believe. They maybe do 6 weeks. But then after that, then it goes to a static page where you can't fill that out.
So we've had this conversation a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
Let's face that, and it is a bad problem. So I guess getting this information back to us is an awesome thing. But I'm going to turn a little bit of attention once again over to our fire chief, and I'd like for him to, or assistant, I guess it is. I'm sorry, Nick.
Why are you always picking on me?
Nick, microphone. Here you go, Nick.
Because I want to make sure before we start something like this, because I've had this talk, I had it with Chief Clark, Ricky, Chief Beasley, and it's a stickler, because my ideology is, if my home is on fire and my child or grandson is there, I want them fire trucks coming wide open, and I mean wide open, hammered down, woo-woos blaring.
Yeah, well,
I don't want them to have to stop and come to almost a complete stop, because I've always heard in the fire, or the police, but especially the fire, that seconds matter.
that's true. And most of the calming devices, like the speed bump type, that you can place them where we can straddle them, but that's not going to affect an ambulance. They can't straddle us. They're going to have to either slow down or find another way. But we're getting there quick.
Now, when I went and looked at these and took pictures and showed them to Chief Beasley, the neighborhoods that some of these are in that have that, what you say, where you can split, they have a very, very wide shoulder.
Yes.
And we have a lot of streets in Laverne that does not have that wide shoulder.
Right. Well, we probably couldn't straddle all of them, but if we get a wide gap, or if people stop ahead of us, we can make arrangements to get around them. Hopefully.
And if you look on the information that Kyle provided, it actually has lists all the different measures, and there's a section in there that talks about increasing response times. It shows where there's some minor benefits or disadvantages, but the bulk of them are no benefit or disadvantage when it comes to increasing response times, which is the big part that we look at. There's only 3, I believe, that have minor benefits or disadvantages, and that's the speed table, humps, the traffic circle, and then, Kyle, how do you pronounce that other one? You put this together.
You might want to ask Gary, he's probably better at it, but is it chicane or chicane?
Chicane.
Ask Chief Mays, he knows.
I'm going to go with chicane.
He amazes us once again.
I think, personally, I think that if we can swing this financially and the emergency services don't have a problem with it, I think that we are in dire straits and needs this, because we have got some really crazy people running around that like to, and I know Tuesday Chief Mays is going to have a report for me about speeding. Thursday, I'm sorry. What did I say?
Tuesday.
Thursday. That's what I meant, Thursday.
I think when we talked about this last year, the big hangup was, one of them was the cost of the study itself. Do we know what a rough number on the cost of the study itself will be?
My big hang-up's going to be the staff time, because going through this whole process, we currently do not have staff that has the time to dedicate to doing this. So, like I said, what we've put together is, if we're going to do something, we need a policy. And what that policy says, I mean, we can change this. So like, if you did not want a full-blown traffic study, or how much of a study, we can maneuver that around. You're still going to have a lot of staff time, though, consumed by, first, somebody's got to process all these, then we're going to have to review every one of them, and then once they get installed, then we're going to have to go back and get the feedback and see if the measure was effective or not, and it's going to be a lot. So there's definitely going to be, on the staffing side, we're going to have more people. But to answer the question better on the what study, I don't know cost right now, but we can probably, make it as minimal as it can be, but still be looking at, is it going to be effective or not? Because one of the things that right off the beginning is whenever you find an area that needs to have some calming, the very first thing is you kind of look at enforcement also. You don't just go right to the speed hump or the, doing a roundabout or something like that. So you look at, is there a way to increase enforcement? Does that help? You also look to even see if you truly have a problem, because sometimes it's just a perceived problem and it's not really actually happening. So, like I said, there's a lot to it. I definitely think we could, mold this language to what is suitable for the board and us, because we're going to have to definitely look at this a lot closer if this is something you'll move forward with, as to what is actually required. Because I wouldn't say a full-blown traffic study is needed, but you are going to need a lot of time and effort as to seeing, yes, we do have a problem here. This is how much speeding is going on, because once you put the measure in, we'll want to see how effective it was. Because of course, you're going to have the neighbor complaints, but if it's if it turns out to be effective, then do you get rid of something that's really effective just because you're having one or two complaints at that point? I don't think you would. I think if you're, the goal is safety, then you put something in, then you may end up with a resident that's right next to that speed hump that you are going to get a call from forever now, that's complaining about the noise or the, that device. But how do you justify removing it if it's effective at slowing people down?
What's the time frame to complete a study like this? A year, 2 years?
No, I think you'd be looking at, once we had the information and we looked at, okay, well, we're closing off the submittal period, we'd have to look at how many requests we got. But I think we could do that in a few months, as far as looking at, hey, is there really a problem? Is there not? So you're looking like maybe a 3 to 6 month period, and then that next 3 to 6 month period would be to install, if it's something like a speed hump or something like that. Now, if you're getting into a roundabout, that's going to be engineering design and a lot more involved. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to limit this conversation to like the speed hump, speed tables, rumble strips, things like that. Some of your, you know, your roundabouts, lane narrowing and stuff, that's going to take some engineering design, and that's going to be costly.
The ones that I looked at and did some recording, and I talked to the Public Works Director in Smyrna, those things were $3,000 each. Took 3 people about 4 hours to put each one of them down. That's the ones that's got where you can split them. Public Works Director said that they worked when they wanted to, but they've had a couple of head-on collisions because people are trying to split them. I'm going to get there before that car does, and then they scoot over in the middle because they can't. Their vehicles are not wide enough to go that way. So, and I'm not being negative. I'm just telling you what on my research that I did. You know, and it's really a shame that we even have to talk about this but call it what it is. We got some drivers out there that don't have a clue. But those rumble strips, where I know they're at, I do not want one in front of my house because at 2 o'clock in the morning, they do exactly that. They rumble.
The slower you go, the louder they are.
Seems like it. But I think it's a good idea. I think it's something we need to talk about. We need to look into. If our emergency services, if Chief Mays, one of his officers after a car, and that car clears that speed bump, is he going to clear it, or is he going to take care of his vehicle and slow it down, or are we going to have to pay for his busted shocks? There's no good answer for any of that stuff.
Yep.
So
I don't think there's going to be one solution that's just
No.
everything is positive. There's no negatives because that's not life.
I think it needs to be in a conversation, and Lord knows we've had them over the last 6 years. So
Okay,
Carol,
can I talk now?
absolutely. Jump right in.
I've traveled some of the main thoroughfares in Nashville, like Huntington, which is a cut through from Ellington. No,
that's right.
is it Ellington?
Ellington, yeah.
Over to I can't remember the name of the road. Anyway, my son lived back in that neighborhood in Nippers Corner, and they have the speed humps. And then what people were doing on the speed humps is they didn't have like reflective things or anything on the side, on the shoulder, so people were going around like this. The other night, I was in Nashville responding to an event, and there were speed humps on the main road. There were no speed humps on the roads going off of the main road. And what Nashville had done was put reflectors up in the shoulders to keep people from doing this. Now, there were a lot of big equipment trucks where I was at, and they were able to get to the situation on time. There were no complaints, and I think it's a good thing to do a study like this. I know some of the main roads leading into Lake Forest, where I'm at, it's a drag race at night, you know, going in. And there are stop signs that are ran because people think nobody's going to be coming, and I'm coming down Holland Ridge, here's Lake Forest, and I see the cars, and phew, there they go. So, and then just another thing, this evening when I was on the way here near Shreveman, east near Shreveman, there was a motorcycle passing a car going toward the roundabout in the turning lane. And of course, it was getting twilight, and the motorcycle driver was dressed in dark. So fortunately, you know, I was watching, but once again, people need to slow down. It's not near Shreveman is 40 miles an hour, and somebody is going to get hit. You know, and this wasn't. It was what 5:30 this evening with that happening. And I know Chief Mays and their shift supervisors can't have people on East near Shreveman 24 hours a day to watch for people not paying attention to what they should be doing and following the rules. I mean, it's so, but, you know, with whatever the surveys come in, I don't know if, Kyle, you could use some volunteers to go through and look at them and kind of organize them before y'all look at them to see what part of town it is and, you know, try to organize it. You know, maybe there would be some volunteers that would be willing to come in to help with that and then help you all help make a better assessment. But I'm just saying, in Nashville, the two main roads that I've done, they've slowed me down. So, and then once again, you know, Vice Mayor No, he reached out to Smyrna. We might reach out to Nashville, to the Nashville Fire Departments and see what they think of the speed humps and stuff. And I would be willing to do that.
And Kyle, I'll reach out to Freddie on tomorrow and see if I can get him to get his director to send over what their policy is, and then get that over to you, and then we can just hopefully pick this up next month, try to come up with some kind of plan.
Katie, this may be a little bit off of the scope here, but, you know, and I know Bruce has got it in the back of his head. Has there been any kind of lawsuits or anything about somebody's gone over a speed bump and it caused them to veer, or it
I haven't heard of any such lawsuit. I can tell you that the GTLA would cover any kind of poorly maintained road condition if that were the case. So we would have some GTLA immunity
Did you hear that, Bruce?
if something.
But anyone can sue at any time.
Anybody can sue at any time for any reason.
Yeah, I know.
Happens every day.
But it wouldn't be poorly maintained. It would be something to slow the person down, which that would be their fault if they wreck their vehicle.
I like the way you think.
So moved.
That's my logic.
Any other discussion on this? Okay, moving on to Mayor and Alderman comments. Alderwoman Hobbs.
I got nothing for this evening, thank you.
Alderwoman Haas.
I think I've said my piece.
Vice Mayor No.
No, sir.
Wow. Okay.
National Night Out.
Well, we've got National Night Out on Tuesday at Veterans Memorial Park. As Vice Mayor No says, in beautiful downtown Laverne. That's going to start at 6 p.m., going to go till 8. And then I believe that following Wednesday is also Coffee with a Cop. And that will be at the Shell Station on Waldron at 8 o'clock in the morning.
I believe you're correct.
Okay. So busy intersection, but hopefully it should be good times. So be sure to show up. I'm sure Chief will be downing lots of coffee.
We'll have postings on the website and our social media page as well. So if people want to look it up, please come out.
Okay. With that, just please be safe with these storms coming in. If you see floodwaters, do not drive through them. Call this meeting adjourned.